All right, friends, hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, A Radical Relationship, where we are talking all things faith and all things lifestyle. And today I am joined by another amazing guest, and I'm so excited for you all to hear from her. I'm excited for myself because this will be the first time that I get to hear just a little bit more of the story in depth. So we'll just start by diving right in with just some introduction.
Okay, so my name is Brianna, but everybody calls me Brie. My new last name is Turner. I am a risk communications public health coordinator. Basically, I plan for the worst
Wow.
in a public health crisis. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I have two teenagers, 16 and 15. I'm an author.
Yes.
And I'm an entrepreneur. So yeah, and of course a child of God.
Yep. Just a couple different hats.
Right.
Just a few. That's awesome. Yeah. So to give a little bit of background information for those listening, just on how we got to this point. I first saw you in different posts in the what's the Facebook group, Bible Talk something, Girls and Bible Talk or something like that.
I think it's the girl talk, Bible's girl talk. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, one of my friends
Yeah,
added me to it a while back, and I remember before I moved
right.
back home to Memphis, I'd asked about people who were in the group who were in the Memphis area. You
Yes.
were one of them, and I think you're a soror as well.
Yes, I
Yes,
am.
yes, yes. And so I when I saw just your amazing post just about the wedding and really just God's faithfulness, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta talk. We got
Right.
to talk. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, just give us a little bit of background on kind of your story and your testimony.
Okay, so my testimony, it starts way before this wedding.
Yeah.
So I was born to a teen mom. My biological mom was 14 when she had me. Her mom was pregnant at the same time. So they had to kind of make a decision, you know, and I was put up for adoption.
Wow.
So I was born in Jackson, Tennessee.
Okay.
I ended up at an adoption agency in Memphis, and that's how my mom got me. So I have two moms,
Okay.
basically.
That's awesome.
She adopted me at 3 weeks, and she noticed maybe two or 2 or 3 weeks in that I was like breathing really hard.
Mm.
And she took me to the doctor. They thought I had bronchitis. But she just said that the Holy Spirit told her, something was different. So she went through the phone book, found a random ear, nose, and throat doctor, and took me to him. And I ended up having recurrent respiratory papillomas. So basically, in so many words, that is tumors on your vocal cords. They come and go. So that's why it's called recurrent. So I would say about the first 13 years of my life, I was having surgeries almost every week. So they would take the tumors off. They would come back in about 4 or 5 days. And then finally the walls of my throat collapsed. So they took a bone from my rib and they put it inside my throat. You probably can't see it, but it's
Okay.
a scar.
Yeah, I can
It
see it.
healed into a smile. So yeah, they put the bone inside my throat to hold the walls of my throat open, and I've been in remission ever since. So yeah.
Wow.
Um, Fast forward to school. When I was in school, I was a normal childhood. I grew up in church. My mom was very religious,
Okay.
but I also had the type of mom that didn't talk about sex.
Hmm.
She didn't talk about why you shouldn't do things. It was just like, don't do it. And so I was the type of kid, if you tell me something is hot, I want to, see if it's really hot. Like, is it really hot? yeah, I got my first boyfriend at 14, maybe 15. I was curious. We had sex and I got pregnant the first time that
Wow.
I had sex. Right. So from then on, it was just like everything changed. Like I said, I grew up in church. So when my pastor found out I was pregnant, they made me stand up in front of church and apologize. And at the time, of course, I was still a kid, even though I was pregnant, I was still a kid. But I didn't understand why I had to apologize. But the person who got me pregnant didn't have to do anything. I was embarrassed. I felt shamed. Like it seemed like nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered that I had been serving in church the whole time. I was dedicated and I just made a mistake.
Wow.
And that kind of changed my outlook on, it should have been my outlook on people, but it changed my outlook on church and God. Yeah, so we didn't go to church for a while. And then I had my daughter, and 18 months later, I had my son.
Okay.
So yeah, I got pregnant again by the same person.
Okay.
And yeah, I hadn't been to church in like years once that happened. So at the time, I was in an abusive relationship. The person I was with, it was very toxic. It was my first, I guess, my first example of love from a man. So I felt like, okay, even though my relationship with God wasn't what I thought it should be, I felt like God wanted me to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be with this man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way God would let me get pregnant twice by this man if it wasn't meant for me to be with him. So I was doing everything to like try to make it work in my teenage mind. It was very physically, verbally abusive. And I remember I would write him letters, like begging him, don't hit me anymore, blah, blah, blah. So my mom found a letter. And of course, that didn't go well. She like banned him from coming around. Don't you ever hit my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Of course. So she would make me listen to, I don't know if you've ever heard this song by Tamia called Me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she would literally make me listen to that song all day until it like started sticking to me. And so once my self-esteem grew a little bit, I'm like, okay, I need to get out of Memphis, but I don't know how. I knew that if I stayed in Memphis, I would stay in the relationship because I just wasn't strong enough to like leave him and stay where I was. So I woke up one day and I said, Mom, I'm going to college. I want to go to college and I need you to help me. So surprisingly, she was like, okay, if you go to college and you do what you need to do, I will help you take care of the kids. And so that's what we did. I went off to college. I didn't go far. I went to Mississippi, but for me, it was like my escape route.
Yeah.
So I went off to college, and when I got there, it was like I found God again. I just needed a change of like scenery. I would go to the chapel every day. And like I prayed to God, make this transition completely different. Like I want to go to college and I want to be a new person. So I went off to college, fast forward to all of that. And I remember my senior year of college, I would come home every week. But I remember my senior year of college, there was like a revival service. Mind you, I had been in a relationship, 2 relationships while I was in college.
Okay.
But at the time, I was in my last college relationship, and it wasn't good at all. Like, it wasn't abusive, but I was constantly being cheated on, typical ignorant. So,
Right.
right. So I was so depressed, but it was like something would always make me get up and go to church.
Mm.
Like even in my depression, I would on Friday, on Friday night, I would stay in my room all the way up until Sunday morning. And like I would just gain the strength to go to church on Sundays. So we were having like a revival. And there was a lady there preaching. I had never met her before. And she called me out by name. And she was just like, Brianna. And I'm like, me? And she literally was like, stop looking around. Yes, you. And she said, the relationship that you're in right now is going to end. It's trash. Right. It's gonna end. She said, you're gonna speak before thousands of people and your testimony is gonna save lives. So mind you, at the time, I was not who I am now. Like I loved God or whatever, but I wasn't speaking before people because I was still kind of ashamed of my voice, everything I had been through. And so when she said that, I just honestly thought that this lady is crazy, like whatever. So I took what she said and I moved on with my life. Fast forward to, I would say 2016. I just started to like share bits and pieces of my testimony. And at the time I was looking for my biological mother. I had never met her before. All I had was like a description of her and some sealed records. So I was trying to get access to the sealed records. And so I said, I see people using Facebook all the time to reunite with people. Let me just make a status. So I made a status. And I'm like, if you were this age in 1988, blah, 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 please share. So maybe like 230 people shared it. And I started to find people who were like inboxing me to help me.
Wow.
So like I would update people every week, just make a status like, hey guys, I've gotten this far. Hey guys, nothing happened this week, not realizing people were really interested in this. So I ended up finding her in July 2016 and we met in person. It was different. And I think at that point in my life, that's when my outlook on everything changed. Like my mom who raised me is very strict, very by the book, very particular. She has master's degrees. She's just everything that you're supposed to be. Yeah. So when I met my mom, my biological mom, she was so different. And I don't know if I would use the word disappointed. But I remember thinking like, okay, this is where I came from. Like this little town, you can drive through Jackson, Tennessee in 10 minutes. Like this is where I came from.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, over the time we built our relationship up, but that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to put out a book and I'm going to write about my story. And my mom would always tell me like, you should just write a book and tell people because people are interested, And so I wrote a book, but I wrote the book and put it out before I met my biological mom. So my book basically ends at me searching for my mom. So I'll have to write a part 2 one day, but I met my mom, and at the time I ended my relationship from college. So the lady was right about that. I ended my relationship from college and I just decided I'm going to be single. Like, I'm going to be single. I don't know if my kids will ever have a father figure, But at this point, I just want to live life, please God, and do me.
Yeah.
So I put strict rules on myself. Nobody's gonna call me after 9 o'clock. um, if you can't talk to me in the daytime, then we just won't talk. I don't want to date anybody who doesn't have a relationship with God, like all these rules. Right. And so I was meeting people who, I mean, they seemed like they would go by the rules or whatever, and I would always end up bending them. They call me at 9:30. I'm like, oh, okay, let's talk. So one by one, God was like, nope, that's not it. That's not it. So my kids were getting older. I was moving up in my career. I got my master's, and I just started to think, okay, maybe it's meant for me to be single. Like, maybe it's meant for me to be single so that I can help other women. Because if I'm married, how can I help women if I'm dedicated to my husband? So I started to, God gave me the idea of having a women's conference called Glam, Grace, and Mercy. So Glam, Grace, and Mercy just means you don't look like what you've been through, And so I had it for 3 years straight. It was powerful. So many people got saved. And then last year, God just told me, no, don't do it anymore. Like, just pause. And so I was on a roll, and I didn't understand why God wanted me to pause. So let's backtrack to 2017. Somebody, without my permission, put me in a Facebook group called No Singles Left Behind. And of course, me being me, I'm kind of outspoken on Facebook, so I was making friends, I'm getting to know people. I'm like having Bible study, Bible trivia, and all of these different people were, inboxing me. And so there was one particular guy who wasn't my type. He inboxed me, and I ignored him. Moved on with my life. So at this time, 2017, I was traveling with my friends. Like, I was really enjoying single life. I was enjoying being a mom. My kids they were like 13 and 14. So, I could leave them with my grandma. They weren't babies. Yeah. So I could kind of do what I wanted to do. And I was just enjoying life, traveling. And this guy would not stop inboxing me. I'm just like, why is he inboxing me? He's not my type. He's light-skinned, superficial. And so one day I was having a bad day. It was the day after my birthday. And he inboxed me again. And so I responded like, hey, whatever, typical. And we just clicked. Like, from then on, we were inseparable. And that's how we got up to this point. So I don't know if you want to ask me anything.
I love everything about this story.
I know that was a lot.
It's amazing. So many things that I resonate with. One, my mom was a teenage mom. She got pregnant with me at 15. She was 16 by the time that she gave birth to me, and very similar experience. Her mom was heavily involved in the church, and, they just really kind of ambushed her and made her feel all these different types of ways about getting pregnant young. But then when the pastor granddaughter get pregnant, it's, oh my God, you would think, right, Jesus. And so my mom was basically like, look, if this is what church is, I don't want no parts of that. Boop, right. Out this thing, no problem. It was just like rebellious. Right. After that, so I completely understand that. I noticed that you didn't mention anything about your dad. Was your adopted mom married, or did you ever meet your biological dad?
So I have two. I'll try to make it short. My adopted mom, she wasn't married, but she was in a relationship for, how we do, in a relationship for 10, 12 years. Yeah. And I just remember one day, I had to be about 11. I woke up and he didn't live with us anymore.
Okay.
But when I got older, I found out that they just kind of broke up and they didn't want the kids to be involved. So he made sure to move out when we were sleeping. And
Yeah.
that was just, but I think in a way they did it to try to protect me, but they didn't realize how traumatic that experience was. So yeah. Then my biological dad, when I met my mom, she told me she didn't know where he was, but we ended up finding out that he passed away back in like 1996.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he was like in like a drug lifestyle and stuff like that. So he was murdered. So yeah.
Yeah. As I'm hearing you talk about your story, I already, like, in my mind know so many people whose stories will resonate. I have a friend with a similar story of her dad being murdered just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like similar lifestyle and that kind of thing. So that's it's weird, kind of like not having that part of you to ever sort
It is.
of back to.
It is.
Yeah. So I appreciated what you had to say about how you were enjoying your singleness. And I wanted to tap into that a little bit more because it sounds like you just really spent a lot of your time outward focused. So talk to us about like what it looked like to enjoy singlehood and not be wrapped up in this idea of wanting a husband.
So I think I'm going to be honest because we're honest here. So I was a serial dater in college. I would be in a 2-year relationship, then I would be in a relationship for 1 year, then I would be with somebody for 2 years. So I mean, they were years, but they were always back to back until eventually I just got tired of one, wasting my time, wasting my time and energy with men who didn't do anything.
Right.
I was moving forward. I was getting degrees. I was opening businesses, accomplishing X, Y, and Z. But the men that I was dating weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, no shade, but to this day, some of them are still where I left them.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. But I just honestly got sick of it. So
Yeah.
I just was like, you know what? I want to learn how to love me
Mm.
without anybody else. I want to learn how to go out to eat by myself, spend time with my friends, and do all of this because I don't want to wait until, I hear a lot of women say, "Oh, I'm going to wait until I get married so I can see the world. I'm going to wait until I get married to buy a house or whatever."
Right.
And it's just like,
Why
I didn't want to wait. And so I would tell myself, when I meet my husband, we're going to have so much to talk about because
I love
because
that.
I've done so much. So yeah, I just got to a point in my life where I just wanted to enjoy life. I wanted to stop being bitter because I was bitter, and I just wanted to have fun with my friends. And so that's what I did. I didn't have a lot of money at the time. Um, I was still, trying to get into public health. So I wasn't making a lot of money, but I saved up. And
Mhm.
so me and my friends, we would say, okay, in June, we would say in December, in June, we're gonna go to Miami. So we would save up every month, and then we would go to Miami. Okay, let's go to Las Vegas. We would save up. We were just very intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really helped to have really good friends because they made life just so much happier
Yeah.
without a man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what did you find like the balance to be in, like living life and enjoying it and having that group, but also um kind of keeping things in a spiritual perspective, right? Because one of the things that I feel really passionate about is young women and men being able to see that like being Christian don't mean that like
Right.
look and you like a square and you don't get to have no fun and it's all these things that you can't do. So what did
Right.
that balance look like from you in like upholding biblical standards but still being able to enjoy life?
So for me, it started with having accountability. Anytime I had mostly female accountability partners, but I also had one trusted male partner.
Okay.
So whenever we would go, me and my girls would go out of town, I would make sure to tell him, this is what we're doing. This is where I'm going to be. If I don't text you or call you by a certain time, I need you to check in with me. Because I knew how I was. I knew I used to be the type of person that would stay out all night, get sloppy drunk, do all of these things. So I was still growing. So I needed somebody to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
And he did. He would call me, text me, I'm just checking in. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I knew that he heard from God. So if I lied to him, he was gonna know I was lying. So yeah, I just had a lot of people that were holding me accountable.
Yeah, I love that so much. And